Hey guys, how are you? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. I'm so glad you're chilling with us today. So as you guys know, I try to go around the world seeking the best humans on the planet to bring them on here to discuss some like really cool topics and resources with you. And today I found Lauren. Now, Lauren, I know I'm going to mess this up. Is it Fonvielle? No.
Yes, that's right.
Go ahead, Neena. And she's an accredited EFT practitioner and an energy mind shift coach. And you guys know we love talking about mind shifting, mindset, all of that. She is also an RYT 200 trauma informed yoga teacher and a certified Reiki practitioner. Now, I want to get into that as well because I'm not too sure what that is. I want to learn about that. And her focus is to help clients tap into their healing, their self-healing power, and break through the obstacles, the physical, mental, and emotional obstacles that we all have, right? So she believes that we all have the answers within, and sometimes we just need a little help accessing them. Let's speak English here, Neena. Let's speak English. So, Lauren, welcome so much here to Straight Talk. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you tonight.
Yeah, me too. I was reading, I was on your website. You have a really beautiful website, by the way, really
Oh,
well
thank
done.
you.
And I was reading a lot of things that you do, and you do a lot of work with mindset and energy and all that, and that is my jam. But you do it in a different way, and so I want to talk to you about that. So before we get into that, Lauren, I just want you to introduce yourself a little bit more. Like, who are you? What are you up to? What's going
Yeah,
on?
sure. So, like you said, I'm an integrative energy practitioner, and what that basically means is that I use a variety of different healing modalities when I work with my clients to help them release physical and emotional stress from their bodies, so
Mm,
that they can feel at home in their bodies. Because I think so much of the time we're struggling and we're not
yeah.
we're not feeling at peace, and so it's finding that inner peace.
Yeah, and your work is probably really, really important these days, especially, during these 2 years that all of us have been going through this pandemic, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, that's one of the things that I've definitely read more about and, had to really kind of do a little digging within myself as well. And with people that I know, just really people are going through, right? So
Yeah.
the healing work that you're doing and what you're saying about almost feeling like you almost feel a little bit like you're an alien in your body sometimes, right? So it's
Yeah.
really great that you're helping people to connect like that. So what got you into this to begin with? Because I mean, usually when we go through a transformation like this, it's
Mhm.
because of something, right? It's a journey that we've been through ourselves. Am I right on that?
Oh, yeah, you're
Yeah.
spot on. Um, yeah, no, I love what you said about, like, feeling like an alien in your own body. I usually describe that as, like, disconnected from your higher self, so, like,
Yeah.
really getting in alignment with your higher self. But, yeah, my journey started with my own anxiety and stress, and
Mm,
when it got to a point when my husband we found out my husband was going to deploy, and this was for the third deployment, and this time we had kids,
mm,
and it was unexpected, and my anxiety just like went through the roof. I started having panic attacks, and I was seeking things to help me, and decided to go the holistic route.
mm.
And yeah, and so it started with yoga, and then expanded to Reiki and sound healing and meditation, and then EFT. And I've kind of explored all of those different areas, seeking out certification, and now I kind of bring everything together to help people in this collaborative type of way.
That's wonderful. Were you able to, like, when you got into yoga, is it what kept you on that journey? Is it that did you find yoga to be very calming for you? Was helpful? Is that what
Yeah.
started it?
So
Yeah.
so I had been practicing yoga on and off probably for at least 15 years. And kind of looking back, I would end up going to yoga during the times where I was really struggling, when I had stuff
Mm,
going on in my life. And this particular day, after we got news that my husband was going to have to deploy, I found myself in a yoga class. But that day there was a flyer about becoming a yoga teacher, and
mm,
deep within me was like, sign up, you need to do this. And while it didn't make sense logistically with everything that I was going to need to juggle with finding care for the kids and figuring out how I was going to do that, I something deep within me called me to do that, and I did. And it was the first step in this journey that I took that I never would have imagined that it would lead where it has, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, you know what's awesome about that too is that, you know, like you said, logistically it didn't work, but sometimes you just have to step out
Hmm.
and you feel it like in your gut, in your bones, you feel it, you feel that there's sometimes like this divine connection, something that is pulling
Hmm.
you outside of that, and you can't help but to actually do it, even when it's not logistically happening, right? Did
No,
you find that? Yeah.
uh-huh. Yeah, no, it's exactly right. It's what I like to call a soul nudge, and
That's good.
listening to that soul nudge and doing it scared because I was petrified
I
like
bet. Yeah.
when I signed up for that. But yeah, it turned out to be the best thing I could have done.
That's awesome, and I use that phrase a lot, like, "Do it afraid." I always do things
Hmm.
afraid, and so I'm always telling people, "Oh, do it anyway." They're like, "But I'm scared." "Do it afraid." You know?
Right.
Just do it,
Right.
right?
No, that's right. That's where growth comes from when you're outside your
Yeah,
comfort zone. Yeah.
yeah. That's great. So, when did that journey happen to you? Was that, a few years ago, recently? When was that
Yeah,
journey
that
started?
was, I guess it was 6 years ago now.
Okay, alright.
Yeah.
Is hubby okay? Did he
Yep, he's
come back
back.
okay? Okay,
Yeah,
good,
he's
good, good.
back. Yeah.
Awesome sauce, good. That's great. So, but you're doing, like, a lot of different work too, right? So,
Mhm.
what got you into Reiki? And for those who don't know, can you explain a little bit about what Reiki is?
So, Reiki is a Japanese form of energy healing. Some people refer to it as laying of the hands. And it's
Okay,
basically this practice of the practitioner channeling energy and sending it to the person, the client that's being worked on.
okay.
And it's very, it's I get challenged with describing it because it's so much a feeling, talking about
Okay.
it can feel
Yeah.
kind of obscure, but so the different things can happen. Like when you tap into somebody's energy through this work, you can feel different things. And I like to, when I'm describing it, sometimes I'll describe it as like if you come home from work and you had a great day and you're in a wonderful mood, and then your spouse is home and you just walk through the door and maybe they're watching TV and their back is to you, and you haven't even seen their face, but you can just feel the
Oh, yeah.
energy in the
Yeah.
room, like that, oh, something's not right, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so it's kind of like that in how you can tap into somebody else's energy and feel what's going on. So for me, when I do it, I get a lot of visuals. I get a lot of visions of what things
Mm.
mean. And then I share that with the person. And sometimes it makes sense right away. Sometimes things to me that make absolutely no sense to me, then and the person like totally resonates with it. Right. So I've gotten to a point where I'll really just say what comes to mind, let whatever
Yeah.
is coming through come through, and they can take what they want, leave what they don't. Um, and it can help to clear the chakras. The chakras
Mm.
are the different energy centers that start from the crown of
Okay.
your head and go down to the base of the spine, the root chakra. And when you're in a state of health and well-being, if you think of all of these points, so the crown of the head, the third eye, the throat, the heart, right above the belly button, below the belly button, and then the base of the spine. If you think of those places as glowing balls of light that are moving, that
Mhm,
are
mhm.
rotating, and then if you think of light coming down through the crown of the head all the way down to the base of the spine, and all of those balls are moving and the light is able to get all the way through down to the root, right? That's when you're feeling good and healthy. Now, when one of those is either clogged or totally stopped up, right? So, like, I could give the exact. I think the easiest example is like if you had a great loss, right? Maybe you lost a loved one, and it's really bad heartbreak, right? Or maybe you broke up
Mhm.
with a boyfriend or a husband or whatever. Like you have all this heartbreak, and so now this glowing ball of light at the heart, it can't move. Maybe it's not moving at all. Maybe it's moving slower, but the light coming in from the crown of the head can't make its way all the way down to the root, right?
Got
And
it.
so it blocks it. And so through Reiki, you can help to get the more balance in your energy system. So hopefully that
Yeah.
makes sense.
That
But
makes actually a lot of sense. Yeah,
okay.
that makes a lot of sense. And I've actually, you know, I know that I've seen like images, you know, of the lights and the so I totally get what you're saying. That must be a really cool experience for you when you are going through that process with someone and then are able to see something is clogged or stuck and then they resonate with that because then you're like, okay, we're on the right track here, right? That must be very fascinating.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool. It's very interesting. I always will tell people I get these very strange analogies in my mind that come with the picture that I see, and I try to make sense of it. And
Right.
sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes it's like, oh no, I think it means this. I was like, oh, okay, you know, like yeah. So it's a cool practice, and it's cool to experience too. You sometimes people see colors, sometimes people feel tingly, they feel energy moving. You know, I once did this practice on my sister-in-law, and my sister-in-law is a pharmacist, so she's very much science driven, you know, fact based woman. But I was like, come on, let me do some let me do some Reiki on you. And she's like, all right. And most people will lay with their eyes closed or sit with their eyes closed during this, but the whole time she would try to close her eyes, but then she'd like
Right.
she'd be open her eyes. She's like, what the heck is going on?
What are
Whatever.
you doing to me?
Yeah. And then at one point she's like, I felt like, so then when I feel a block, sometimes it's like you pull some of that energy out, or you pull it down, right? So that they can release it. And she was like, I literally feel you pulling something out right now. What is happening? I'm like, because I am. You know?
Right. How cool is that, right?
Yeah. So I feel like you really got to experience it
Yeah.
to understand it. But yeah, it's cool. It's a cool practice.
Yeah. So what is RYT 200
So
trauma? What
that
is
just
that?
stands for registered yoga teacher.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm registered through Yoga Alliance, which is like the overseeing
Okay.
body of yoga teachers. Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right. And then what about EFT?
EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And that is a process of gently tapping on
Yeah.
certain points of your body while simultaneously acknowledging emotions that you're feeling. And I often compare that to acupuncture because acupuncture is just more familiar to most people. So instead of putting little needles in at certain points of your body, we're applying acupressure by gently tapping on some of these same points.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then you're saying out loud certain sentences, certain phrases that correlate to like what you're working on. So if you are someone who's dealing with anxiety and stress, you could start by simply saying, I'm so anxious. I'm really so anxious. And maybe you feel that anxiety in your chest, right? I'm so anxious and I feel it in my chest. It depends. Like when you're doing tapping and you're working with a practitioner, it's a very much a collaborative process in discussing what you have going on, what you're feeling, and then the practitioner really guides you through a practice of tapping and talking and seeing what comes up. It's a technique that really you're connecting the dots. There's so much in our mind that's in our subconscious mind.
Right.
And you know, we have experiences throughout our life, and those experiences are attached to different emotions. And so if, let's say, somebody says something to you that really irritates you, a friend says something to you that gets under your skin and you're really triggered by it, right? There's probably more of a reason, but it's probably not just that one thing. It's probably not just that friend. Maybe it has to do with other things that people in your past have said to you that have bothered you in similar ways. You know, there's multiple contributing factors that are
Right.
perhaps leading to the experience that you're having at the moment. And so tapping can help to connect those dots, and in connecting those dots, you create awareness, and then with that awareness, you can shift your mind, and it's really creating new neural pathways in the mind.
Yeah, isn't that awesome? I love it.
Hmm.
I love that kind of stuff. Like I love, neural pathways, and I love the subconscious mind. I love because I've been learning about that lately as a neural, linguistic practitioner. We learn that too. And it's pretty fascinating how many tools we have within us already. It is so fascinating to me,
Hmm.
right? But like you, Lauren, I think people need to reach out to someone like you when they want to get through things they can't do on their own, because I think
Hmm.
that's where people get kind of hung up, like they think they don't need a therapist or they don't need a coach or they don't need, but everybody needs somebody.
Hmm.
And sometimes we can't see it ourselves. Not that we can't have it within us to get through it, but sometimes you just need that specialist or that person who can help you pull that out,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, no, I
So
100% agree, because
yeah.
like when you're in the thick of it with your feelings, it's like I always describe it as a tornado. You're like the eye of the
Hmm.
tornado and you're just in it. But when you're working with somebody who is outside of it, maybe like
Hmm.
standing on the mountain watching the tornado from afar, there's a different perspective. And
Right.
from that, they can kind of help pick out like, okay, this seems the most intense, while the person themselves just feels like everything's intense. It's all so overwhelming.
Right.
And a practitioner can really help guide you through that practice, especially if you're new to tapping. There are lots of videos out there, and that can be helpful for beginners too. But the real power of this work comes with getting in touch with how you truly feel and using
Right.
words that resonate with you, and that isn't always possible when you're doing it just like with a video.
I agree. I agree. I mean, let's be real. There's a lot of information out there in the world. You can get everything, really. Google
Hmm.
it, right? Google
Right,
it.
right.
You can get the information. But it's the human connection that matters. It's that
Hmm.
human connection that matters. I give a lot of free resources, tools, tips, all that kind of stuff with my coaching stuff, right? But
Hmm.
if you don't have me, then you just don't have me. You know what I mean? Like it's that
Hmm.
human thing. So Lauren, I've seen a lot of these videos with the tapping and all of that, because I've have a few friends who have done it for their trauma, and it's really helped them, right?
Hmm.
But it wasn't because they watched the video. It's the practitioner helping them through it that really helped, right?
Yes.
The tapping
Yes.
helped, but the guiding of it really,
Hmm.
really helped. That's why I really wanted you to explain what EFT was, because I've seen it in some friends of mine that it's really, I like it. It blew my mind. I
Hmm.
didn't even know about this stuff until about a year ago. And a
Hmm.
friend of mine who was drinking a lot and was abused a lot and stuff. And man, he got through it through EFT, through
Yeah.
EFT work. Yeah,
There's
it's pretty
some there's some
amazing.
amazing there's some really phenomenal studies that have been done, particularly one with PTSD that was done with a
Mhm.
group of veterans. And after just 6 weeks, they did once a week for 6 weeks tapping with each of these veterans for an hour. At the end of the 6 weeks, 90% of the people in that group had a reduction in their PTSD
Wow.
symptoms,
Wow.
some of which had such a reduction that they technically didn't have PTSD anymore. Like, I mean,
Wow.
that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they checked back in with them 3 months later. It was still reduced. Checked back in with them 6 months later. The symptoms were still reduced. So, it can be a long-lasting change,
That's
and
powerful.
it's a powerful technique for trauma for sure, because it's very gentle,
Mhm.
unlike other approaches where you have to really kind of like dive in on the deep end and relive some of the trauma that you went through.
Mhm. Mhm.
Tapping doesn't approach it that way. It's very, very gentle. And so you don't have to dive in. You don't even need to use words to describe what happened to you if you aren't comfortable doing so. You can use a code word with a practitioner, and you could just call it the incident. But as long
Right.
as you're tuning into the feeling,
What it is.
right? That's
Yeah.
what's important. Really tuning into the feeling. And you can just make up a code word and use that code word, and then notice how the feeling begins to change, and then maybe that shifts into using different words. Um, it's very, very gentle, and I think that's what's so beautiful about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's something more people should know more about. It's not as out there as I think it is. Maybe for you it's different because as a practitioner, you're probably looking at this stuff even more. But I'm
Mhm.
just telling you, as a person who isn't looking at it all the time, I don't see much of it. I know there's like a few practitioners here and there where I live in the Connecticut, New York area. But once I saw this transformation in my friend, I was blown. I just was blown away. I could not believe it, and I'm like, really? Tapping, and I was like, so
Mhm.
then of course I had to read about it and learn about it, and I'm just like, this is phenomenal. It's really great work. So is that what you're doing along with other things to do this mind shift work? Is that
Yes.
what you okay, so that's how you incorporate it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you
Yep.
what kind of programming do you have? Like, do you do one-on-one, or do you do like groups or coaching? How do you do that?
I do one-on-one. I like to work with people one-on-one, to really get to know them and,
Hmm.
and cater what we're doing specifically to them.
Hmm.
Because everybody's different and people respond to different things. So I
Right.
have an
Right.
8-week program where we really dive in and, collaboratively work together to meet their goal, whether their goal is to have a reduction in panic attacks or to, feel, uh, let go of release pain, because this is a tool that can also help with releasing physical pain, because there are a lot of emotional contributors to physical pain.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
and that's been some really rewarding work. So it's totally dependent on what issue they're struggling with. We
Yeah.
create a goal and then we work from week to week to reach that goal.
Yeah, and I think that that's why it's important to recognize that energy is a real thing, and like you said, like the physical elements. Like I always tell people, yeah, think about it like when you are stressed and you have a headache, or you have a neck ache, or your back hurts. You know what I'm saying? Like stress on the body, it's not supposed to be. So when stress comes, it causes all of these adverse reactions, right?
Mhm.
So that's great work, really great stuff that you're doing with people. And I was asking about the group or one-on-one because I wasn't sure if you taught this like as a group setting, but one-on-one makes sense because people are
Mhm.
dealing with trauma, right?
Mhm. Yep.
So that's important for them to be able to express that to you. Otherwise, how are we going to get to where we got to get to? Are you
Mhm.
doing the Reiki work and all that virtually as well, or is that more like,
Yes.
oh, you are? Oh, that's
Yeah, I'm
interesting.
I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm doing it virtually. I incorporate it into my sessions, and the majority of the work that I do is virtual.
Yeah. No, I mean, the whole world has become virtual, right? So it's just
Mhm.
interesting that you can do that kind of work virtually as well, right? I think it's just
Mhm.
about distractions, probably. You got to make sure that they are not being distracted while you're helping them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
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 Right.
Yeah. That's,
Having a quiet space and setting aside the time and all
yeah.
of that. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they need to do that if they want to get well, right? I mean, that's the whole
Mhm.
point of calling you, Lauren, right? We want to get well.
Right. Healing
Right.
from
And
the inside out. That's all it's all
yeah.
about. Yeah.
And I think, it's just so needed. I was talking to a friend of mine who is a therapist, and she was saying how busy she's been, how much work she's been getting because now people are transitioning back into what normal is. They don't
Mhm.
what is normal type of thing, and people are, she said, very high stressed right now and high like strung, like everything is irritating them or bothering them because they went from isolation to now having to go back to work, back to school, back in and it's just like I didn't even like recognize that because I worked through the whole pandemic,
Mhm.
but the people who didn't or were at home working from home, they're struggling. They're
Mhm.
struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
struggling.
it's a tough transition, and I think it's important to acknowledge that, right? Because
Hmm.
the average person is just going to push that down,
Yeah,
suppress it, right?
yeah,
Because it's not something that they want to deal with, and then they distract themselves by whatever way suits them, whether that's drinking a few many 2 drinks or
yeah.
obsessively working or whatever, and that's not healthy. And
Right.
so it's important to take the time to acknowledge how you're feeling, and I think that's why I love tapping so much, because it's such a great tool for that. And we
Hmm.
all need to feel the feels. We need to feel
Yeah,
it. You got to feel it
yeah,
to heal it.
yeah.
And if you don't do that for yourself, if you don't hold that space for yourself, it's going to build up
Oh
to a
yeah.
point where you're going to explode. And whether that's like, verbally yelling at somebody that doesn't need it or deserve it, or you start to manifest that physically, and
Mm-hmm.
you start to have physical issues. And it's not just, I like you were saying, like people can understand and relate to, oh yeah, when I'm anxious, I get stomach aches, or I get pain in my shoulders, right? But I always like to remind people too, it's not just with anxiety and stress, it's with every single emotion that we physically carry that with us.
Yeah.
And so, tuning into when you're really angry, where do you feel that? Like for me, it's 100% in my jaw, like I get like clenched,
Tense. Oh yeah.
yeah, the tense, and my TMJ will act up. And so, being mindful of these things and really tuning into what your body is telling you, is it can change your life if you learn how to listen to
Yeah.
your body
Yeah.
when she's speaking to you, because
Yeah.
it's subtle, it's these subtleties.
It is. I think this would be really good to with people with mental health and all of that, to just listen to your body. Like
Mhm.
what is making you that way, So that's it. What you're doing is really great work. And I know that I have, a lot of people on my platform, people who listen to Straight Talk, who are always talking to me about things like this, right? Who are always
Mhm.
talking about, high stress and how to get through it and how to feel unstuck and how they feel like self-sabotage, and they're running through a lot of these things. So that's why I was really glad to have you on here and to speak about what it is you do, especially with the tapping. I don't think I've had anybody on here yet that has talked about tapping. We've talked about other things, but not that. So before I wrap up, I do want people to know where to find you. So like if they want to explore this and explore what tapping is, or Reiki, or any of this, where do they find you? How can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, my website is mindshiftwithlauren.com, and you can find all my contact information there. I do have a free masterclass that's specifically about reducing stress and anxiety
That's
using
great.
EFT. And that's, you can find that at mindshiftwithlauren.com/masterclass. And I would just say, if you're intrigued by it, even if you're totally skeptical, like that
Yeah.
this idea of tapping on yourself can make you feel better physically and emotionally, I totally understand that. I was very, very skeptical at the beginning, but I will say this, if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, that sounds weird, but I'm also a little curious, there's a reason why you're listening to this right now, and
Right.
it's to explore that, right? And so I
Right.
always tell people, whatever that is, whatever those those little soul nudges that come along the way, that sometimes they can be easy to ignore, right? But especially if they keep circling back around, it's
Yeah.
like that's happening for a reason, and it's not for you to ignore it. It's for you to explore it. And maybe that means taking this master class, or maybe it means going and taking another class somewhere else. I don't know,
Yeah.
but listen to what's coming up for you, because the
Yeah.
answers are there. The answers are there, and the answers are within, and we just need that help to access them. And this
Yeah.
is a tool that helps you do that.
That's fantastic. And I love the way you explained all of this, even like with the chakras and all that. And like the way you did the turning of the balls and things getting stuck, like that really gave us a great visual about the work that you do. The tapping, I got to tell you, I was skeptical at first until I saw the transformation in my friend. Like it
Mhm.
blew my mind.
Mhm.
And I was just like, are you serious? I just couldn't get over how easy of a technique that was for him as he explained it, but also how transformative that was. And part of me was also like sad of all the people in the past who didn't know about it or didn't have it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, my father was, what was he, in Vietnam, things like that. Like, to think that he could have used that at some point, or, something like that. Yeah, it just kind of like goes, okay, we are really making some really great headway with mental health and, and helping people get through a lot of challenges. So thank you so much for the work that you do, Lauren. I'm really grateful you
Yeah.
came
Thank you
on.
so much for having me today. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed
So
having this
grateful.
conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really enjoyed your time. And guys, like I said, the EFT work and the tapping and all that, I'm telling you because I've seen it with my own eyes, the transformation in my own friend. This stuff really does work. And so I really highly recommend that you go on to her website. Go ahead and check out the masterclass as well. But, working with someone on this kind of stuff can really transform your life. And why not? Why not transform your life? Right, guys? So thank you so much for being here. I'll make sure to put all of Lauren's information below so that you can go ahead and contact her, go onto her website, read what she has on there. Beautiful website. So make sure you go and do that. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, all that great stuff. You know the deal. This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.
This broadcast is brought to you by Wincheck Studios. We are an all-in-one educational platform for podcasters that revolutionizes how hosts leverage content to increase engagement with listeners, downloads, and income. We come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how you can interact directly with our hosts, access exclusive live content with offers you can't get anywhere else from our official partners, join our purpose-driven community by visiting www.winject.com. If you're ready to build a career doing what you love, then we're ready to see you there.